With our wireframes in hand, we're ready to block out the basic structure of our website. Over the last few years, new HTML elements have become available along with several new technologies. Collectively, these new elements and technologies are referred to as HTML5. Now, this might imply a new version of HTML, but it's a little bit of a misnomer. I'm just telling you this now so that when you hear other web designers and developers use the term HTML5, you don't get confused. All it really means are some new HTML elements that weren't available previously, along with a few new pieces of browser technology. Now, let's get coding. First, let's get rid of these style tags. I'm going to highlight this entire area and press the delete key. We don't need them because we'll add style later on. We'll hold on to our headline because we will still need it later. Every web page has to start with what's called a document type, or doc type for short. And it looks like this. You start out with an opening angle bracket, an exclamation point, the word doc type in all capital letters, a space, the word HTML in lowercase letters, and then a closing angle bracket. There's no closing tag, and this tag also won't create anything that's visible on the page. There are many other tags like this that only serve structural purposes and are not actually visible to the site visitor. This doc type basically tells the browser that this is an HTML document and that's how it should be interpreted. The doc type should always be the first thing on the page, and it should always be at the top without any space before it. Now, let's create an HTML element. Of course, everything that we'll be creating here is an HTML element, but this element is actually called HTML. This will serve as the root of our document structure, and similar to the doc type, it won't be visible to visitors. I'm going to wrap our headline with the HTML tags and then indent it so that I can easily see that it's nested. To do this, I'm going to highlight our H1 element. I'm going to cut it by hitting Command X on a Mac or Control X on Windows. Then I'm going to click inside of our HTML element, create some space, then I'm going to paste it by hitting Command V on a Mac or Control V on Windows. Then I'm going to go to the beginning of the line and hit Tab to indent it. One way you can go quickly from the beginning to the end of a line, or vice versa, is by holding down the Command key and using the arrows if you're on a Mac, or hitting Control and the arrows if you're on Windows. So for example, on my Mac here, I can hit Command and right arrow to go to the end of the line, or Command and left arrow to go to the beginning of the line. This handy tip will help you navigate text more quickly. Now we're ready to add two more elements to our page, which are the head element and the body element. Both of these need to go inside of our HTML element. I'm going to type head, and I'm just going to leave that right above our H1. I'm going to go to the end of the line and create a new line, and then I'm going to type a body element. Once again, our H1 element needs to go inside of the body, and in this case, I'm going to use a new keyboard shortcut to actually highlight this body element. To do this on a Mac, you can hit Command Shift and then the arrow key, depending on the direction that you want to highlight. To do this on Windows, you just hit Control Shift and then the direction you want to highlight. So on my Mac, with my insertion point in between the two tags, I'm going to hit Command Shift and then right arrow to highlight it, Command X to cut it. I'm going to go to the end of the line here and paste in that body tag. And then I'm going to indent this line just like that. That way I'll know my H1 is nested inside of my body, which is also nested inside of my HTML. At this point, you're probably starting to see why indentation is so important. When you have a much larger HTML file, as we will later on, it's important to use indentation so that you can see how elements are nested inside of one another. Now let's talk about these two elements that we just added. The head element will contain what's called meta information about our document, which again won't be visible to site visitors. However, it will contain important information like CSS, which will modify the visuals later on. The head element is not the same thing as the website header we wireframed earlier. I know that's a little bit confusing right now, but don't worry, we'll explain the difference soon. The body element, which we typed right here, will contain the rest of our website content. In other words, this is the body of the document. Once again, I've indented my headline element further because it's 2 levels deep here inside of HTML and body. Now, let's jump inside of the head and hit Enter to create some space. Hit Tab to indent our code. And then let's type a title for our website. I'm going to write my name, followed by a space, and a vertical pipe, which you can type by hitting Shift and the / key, then another space, and I'm going to type the word designer, because this website is going to be my design portfolio. You might want to put something else, like photographer or expert cupcake baker. The title tag usually appears in browser tabs, so you know what website you're visiting. It will also appear in search engine result pages. Now, let's add the character set for the page, just above the title. That will look like this. We'll type the word meta, followed by charset, an equal sign, and then 2 double quotes. Inside of the double quotes, we're going to type UTF dash and the number 8. And finally, we need to close our meta tag. This code looks a little bit intimidating, but don't let it scare you. It's simply telling the browser how our web page is formatted and what types of characters are used. Similar to the doc type, it's not visible to the site visitor. It also doesn't have a closing tag. Inside of this meta tag, you'll notice we've used some new syntax. We have a word followed by an equal sign, which is then followed by a value wrapped in double quotes. This is called an attribute. Attributes are extra information inside of an HTML tag that provides key information to the browser about how the page is built. We'll learn more about how to use attributes on many other elements, but for now, let's focus on what this attribute means. The literal translation here is that the character set, or charset, should be UTF-8, or Universal Character Set Transformation Format 8-bit. Don't worry about memorizing that. In fact, I even had to look it up, and I've been making websites for more than a decade. Again, it just describes how our page is formatted.